I think it's a bargain deal up from there. So
for sure.
I think that could be in part of the cards, but I guess that just depends on what Jim Harbaugh really wants to do because he's full of surprises. So sometimes he'll come away with something that really shocks everyone.
All right. Hold on. Okay. When it comes to Dexter Lawrence only had a half a sack for the season. So what do you think you could get him for? You think maybe a third and a second round, or do you think it's going to be a first round?
Depending on the business in which Joe Shane is trying to do with him and Joe Ortiz, I think the thing in which is that if the Giants are truthfully looking for a first round pick, they would want to they would really want to promote this out to where Dexter Lawrence, fresh for a new contract, a guy that even if you looked at 2 years ago where he really was producing up and into his best, I was kind of surprised that the Giants didn't even consider extending him at that time, and where it only took 2 years later until he just didn't really perform at his career best. So I think there's room to finagle that to where it could involve a second round pick. But I think that does determine on how Joe Ortiz really does business because he is the guy that values compensation picks all the time. So to get late rounders back for some of the players that have been let go and maybe signing with other teams does bring back value for the Chargers as a whole, just to allow that to where they can continue to build the roster. And I think with Dexter Lawrence, if the price itself is right, that is something that they could truthfully entertain. But it all depends on how the Giants, what they really want for Dexter Lawrence, and then how the Chargers can afford him and still be able to get quality players at the draft.
Now, if everything goes right when it comes to the draft, who do you want the Chargers to take?
So there's been so this is a unique pick at 22 because the Chargers can control who they decide to pick. I think a lot of people have always said like O line, O line, O line. Absolutely, I would for sure want them to go O line, but you want to have a high quality caliber player that can be filling in to this offensive line with the foundation with Tyler Biadasz, Cole Strange, and then even with Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt coming back. So to me, there were a couple names that pointed out to me. I think Chase Pasantis from Texas A&M, I think, is a really good pick for 22 because the fact of being a guard, he poses athleticism, which is what Mike McDaniel's scheme set is for the offensive line, and especially when you're pairing up with a run game with like Amari Hampton and Kamani Vidal. So, and even Keaton Mitchell. So, I think that's one of the picks that has been talked about and loomed around. Another one has been T.J. Parker from Clemson has been another name that's been linked up to the Chargers. I think someone that does fit a scheme that Jim Harbaugh really loves to value, even if you get a guy that can do both the D-line duties and then even have a linebacker that can be that secondary. Because you got to remember, what is Junior Colson really going to look like after these last 2 years of injuries? We have no idea. He hasn't been able to pop off yet. So he only has his one last chance to do so. And another thing that's also been linked, which I think would be really intriguing, is the Chargers maybe potentially shocking people of getting a receiver. Now, this could only mean if Quinn Johnston ends up getting moved because you're going to want to get valued picks up and into the middle of that. So if that does happen in the first night of draft night, then I can anticipate someone like Denzel Buston to start coming to the Chargers because now you're putting together a foundation where Lad McConkey as a great route runner, a guy that can really, explode in the slot, and then not to mention be that receiver back to where he was as his rookie year. But then you have a guy like Denzel Boston. He's a go up and get it guy. He's a guy that you can really throw outside the hash marks and really get the over the shoulder catches. While meanwhile you're still developing guys like Trey Harris and with Keandre Lambert Smith. So I think that could be a pretty interesting, shocking move. So I think Chase Pasantis, T.J. Parker, and maybe someone like Denzel Boston are the three names so far I've been hearing out of Chargers camp.
Yes, sir. Now when it comes to Mike McDaniel's, man, when y'all got him as your OC, how much do you think that's going to help your offense going into next season with Justin Herbert? How much do you think that's going to help Justin Herbert's game?
I think what this is doing is that Jim Harbaugh really wants to build a foundation to ensure Justin Herbert is going to get that first playoff win. And I think that takes the step of hiring a guy like Mike McDaniel, who's great with X's and O's. And the other thing is that he is predicated for speed. So if you're going to develop an offense that is predicated for speed, what do you need? You need a guy that really can work up with the cuts, a guy that can really find the holes whenever that the offensive line provides those gaps. But then at the same time, you want somebody that's also going to be a really good pass catcher to go and get the yards after the catch and first downs and scores. So Mike McDaniel really does help with that department. And you could see with what he did with Devon Achane. If
For
he could
sure.
do that with Amari Hampton, with the kind of potentiality that he has, and even with Keaton Mitchell as, a speedster type of player. He's a guy that Baltimore really tried a couple times. Of course, aside from injuries, this guy ran the quickest four that we've seen up and in the combine. And so this is a guy that can really mesh well with this whole running back trio. But then I also do think this allows for Justin Herbert to kind of revert back to his rookie season in the scheme fit from back when he had Shane Steichen. Because if you can recall and remember, Justin was able to build the confidence up and into the pocket where he's able to plant, get the time, and be able to throw and spread the ball around to a lot of his receivers and weapons. So I think you'll find that he'll come back to that. But I think it's also going to be even better because we've seen in the last 2 years, Justin's been able to utilize his legs. So sometimes when you look at guys like Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, even a Josh Allen type, they're guys that extend plays because there are opportunities that allows them to extend the plays. So it's a now or never situation. So I think with Mike McDaniel pairing that hand in hand with a guy like Jim Harbaugh who loves a more physical, hardcore trench warfare running game, I think that works perfectly. And then this allows for Justin to now go out, do his thing, and prove to everybody in the NFL world that he can be a part of an elite quarterback class if he just finds a way to build the confidence and get that first playoff win.
For sure. We've seen him put up the yards and everything. Now with him getting a confident OC and how has a confident head coach, and y'all getting all the defense. Y'all have made a few moves for some defensive pieces, like you were saying earlier. Um, I think this might be the year, man. I think this is the year y'all win that division. You beat the
Yeah.
Chiefs. You're gonna. I feel like because I don't think Mahomes is going to be. Matter of fact, I want to get your thoughts on this. Do you think Mahomes will be ready for Week 1? Because I don't.
So the speculation with Patrick Mahomes is that right as soon as he tore his ACL, they immediately rushed him to the medical staff and trying to repair the injury as quick as possible to allow for his timetable to be fair and to be fitting, where he could be ready for Week 1. Um, I think Pat is a gamer. He's a guy that the Chiefs building the foundation for as long as they have. Super Bowl winning quarterback, a guy that's really dominated his division and dominated the AFC. Um, we know that this was quite the down year from Kansas City this year. Um, so it's a chance for him to be able to rebound back. Now, if he's not back at the first week, um, I think with the move with Justin Fields being the quarterback was kind of something that predicates to Eric Bieniemy's type of scheme fit because of his athleticism. And what we've noticed with Bieniemy is that even in his time at Washington, he was able to see the athleticism out of Jaden Daniels. Even though he's a guy that's a snap and go type quarterback, Justin Fields had been bounced around, the league now with his fourth team in his career. I think this allows a little more of a resurgence, but I think it also allows more for an understanding of his true strengths and then not to mention his tangibles. So I think if Patrick Mahomes is really not that ready, especially when he's trying to test out the leg and see if he can be a little more mobile or if he's able to plant and then be able to spread the ball like he always has. That's a question mark in itself. But if he's not particularly ready, I wouldn't rush it. I think more it's just for comfortability, getting used to just the new repair and seeing what other adjustments he can do with it, but then allow for someone like Justin Fields where you can utilize the athleticism similarly with the way Pittsburgh started with the first 6 starts. Um, and it'll allow him to get the connections and the throws for him to be able to develop strictly as a quarterback. So I think it's interesting, but I think with Eric Bieniemy, I'm sure he'll be able to find all the strengths that Justin has.
And for sure, man. And Justin Fields didn't do that bad on the Steelers, if I remember. Wasn't he 4-2?
He was 4-2, but the only knock on that was just obviously stretching the field.
Yeah.
So if you can really come into that where we know his athleticism can be relentless as long as you can unlock that capability, but if you can really get him to kind of match up one-on-one a few times on some plays where he can cork the ball, then that will allow for opportunities for the Chiefs to now get themselves in scoring position, find ways to really attack and win those snaps for first downs. So that's where I think Justin's going to learn a lot more from that.
For sure, 100%. Now, real quick, what's going on in the NHL world, man?
This has been really a fun and I'd say an interesting NHL season. I think mostly, I mean, first time in 15 years we see the Buffalo Sabres now finally make the playoffs, and I think this is going to be a team that really has a lot of say. And you think about the goaltending situation really worked out for them. Tage Thompson clearly is their superstar, but they also have a lot of youngsters built around on this core. I mean, you look at Rasmus Dahlin, you look at Owen Power, and you even look at a guy like Alex Tuck. So I think this Buffalo team really has done a lot of great things to get them in position to be back in the playoffs. And so now that record is now back to the New York Jets now being the sports team that still is going with a drought. But I also do think there's some big storylines where right now the Colorado Avalanche aren't really looking as sharp. There's question marks from that itself, and I think a lot of that is like goaltending is like quarterbacks. If you don't have the quarterback that can be the game changer and be the manager that he needs to be at his position at goaltender, then that's where you're going to find yourself in a very long and stressful series in itself. So the Avs have question marks. I would tend to think, Anaheim's got question marks because I still think this team is young, and you'd hate to see this team really just crash and burn with themselves. But the Vegas Golden Knights are a team that I think, you still don't never want to sleep on. I think it was really surprising for 4 straight games under John Tortorella that this team really needed a swift kick in the you-know-what, and they got the best out of their players. I mean, it's a now or never situation. I also do think that Carolina, there's going to be a question mark of can Rod Brind'Amour really get over that hump and find a way for the Carolina Hurricanes to get their way into the Stanley Cup final, because there's been years going on where they've been in the second round or they've been in the Eastern Conference and they couldn't get the job done. So can this be the year that they can do that? Because if it's another disappointing, unsuccessful year, you're going to have to really question, the captain of that ship, because now you have a lot of potential to not be able to make an appearance from here.
Sure. I got 3 more questions for you. One question I got for you. You have an MLB team?
So I am definitely an A's fan. My wife's a Dodger fan, die hard. But yeah, I obviously love having an underdog team. I mean, 9 World Series championships all together as an organization, and pretty interesting, seeing the move to go to Las Vegas.
Okay, and then the other question I got for you, could you tell us about the interview that you just had and any up and coming interviews that you got, and where can we watch them?
So, like usual, as kind of promoting out with the show, if you guys love sports and you guys love entertainment and you love the best of both worlds all in one place, the Snake Sports Talk Show is where to find it. My latest interviews, as I've gotten myself a really great gig with a Gogi Fight League as we're getting ready for a Gogi Fight League 12. Anybody that's in the Nashville, Tennessee area, come down to Cookeville. It's going to be great fights. We got MMA, kickboxing, so much more. and we got more interviews along the way of their fight cards. I had just wrapped up with Tyler Martin and Chase Porter. They were really great guys, and clearly, these guys are in the room. They're training. They're getting ready for their up and coming fight. It's been great, and just had the recent interview with Matt Wilhelm, the former Ohio State alumni, BCS champion, linebacker, and also Super Bowl champion with the Green Bay Packers, and had a great conversation with him, talking about the Chargers and really talking more about just the defensive front of this draft. So he's excited. He's vouching for Sonny Styles. He's vouching for Arvell Reese. Really loves these guys, and even with Caleb Downs. So of course, always Buckeye alumni. They always love to see their kids really succeed in the NFL.
For sure. Now, final question I got for you. It's actually just, could you let the people know about your podcast, about the show, when the show is, and where they can find you on social medias?
So we're all over on all social medias, you name it, IG, X, and Facebook. Also on LinkedIn and YouTube is where you can find us. Also, you can find us on Millions as well for many people that are followers and viewers here on this very platform. You can watch the show up from there. We usually have always Monday nights, and sometimes we do have Fridays, but we may be moving to Thursdays. So that allows us to get a little bit more open room and get more interviews and more content out. So you guys can watch 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific as well. We got many great interviews along the way. So definitely tune into that. And also we're on Roku, iHeartRadio, and also on X Squad Radio in Atlanta. So definitely check it out for all of my down south Georgia fans out there.
Yes, sir, for sure. This has been a great interview, man. Thank you for coming out. Shout out to Jake Silva. This is Robert with the Not Move podcast, and we just did an exclusive interview with Jake Silva. Let's go, y'all. As always, stay not move. Thank you, man, for coming out.
Appreciate it. Take care, you guys.
Yes, sir.
This non-casual podcast may not be reproduced, retransmitted, or reused without the authorized written consent of the Not Move Podcast Network. Thank you, and we hope you enjoyed today's broadcast.